I don't understand you. What the fuck are you talking about? Shut up before I ankle pick you.
Gaethje and Oliveira again. Then he can move up and fight Leon, and then he's set up for retirement.
I think he should fight Arman Gamrot, and then he can move up.
You think
He don't need
Gamrot
to fight Gamrot. He just needs to fight Arman. They're gonna give Gamrot wants to fight Charles, but Charles that's not a smart fight for Charles unless he wants to fucking learn how to get out of his fucking guard state and learn how to just. I'm gonna strike with people who like to take it to the ground and are actual good wrestlers. Like you're not gonna submit everyone, bro. Arman proved that. You got him in two deep submissions.
Yeah, but he wasn't attacking it enough. That was the issue. He got him in guard, and then he didn't really go for submissions. For how much time he was on the ground, he could have went and attacked it more. I mean, the one deep ass one that he had towards the end, he just didn't have enough time. Otherwise, that one really might have gotten him. But
the first one too. The first one, he did that one early.
Yeah, it's like he needed to do that more. He needed to do more on the ground. I feel like he was content with like, well, if I can stop from being damaged, then I'm fine. And that was kind of like, hey man, you're gonna lose if you don't do anything. Like it's cool that like, okay, you're limiting the amount of damage you're taking, but if 1 out of 3 elbows hits you, you're still getting hit, and it looks bad.
It's all he does. It's all he likes to do. It's I feel like when you reach a certain point in jiu-jitsu, it's like, okay, I know where I can go. I know where I need to go. So let me just fast track it and pull him. Let me just sit on my back, wait for him to come. And it's like, it's just complacency. It's like, even the one at the end of the second, like, he knew the round was ending and you still throw in a fucking submission with fucking 5 seconds left. Like, I get it. But realistically, no one's going to tap if you're a top contender. You're not going to tap. You have that drilled in your head. There's 5 seconds left. I'm going to thug it out. I'm just going to do what I got to do. But he just...
I mean, fuck, look at that chick who fought Wei Lee. She literally got fucking choked out and still went and fought the next round. And then won. Or almost.
I don't know. Jiu-jitsu is just not like what it used to be. And it's not even just Charles. Everyone who's just a jiu-jitsu nerd is just ruining the sport, honestly.
I mean, I feel like it's always been that way.
You just sit there and strike.
I feel like it's always been that way, and the freaking Gracie family just capitalized on the lack of experience of people who have only struck in their life, and that's how they got their whole name, and that's how jiu-jitsu got all its credibility. But over time, you're just kind of seeing, like, you can't just be a jiu-jitsu guy. You got to have, like, something else. You got to add something on top of it. Like, you could be jiu-jitsu with really good wrestling. You could be jiu-jitsu with really good striking, but you can't just be straight jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu is really good when you're put in a position to use jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Outside of that, literally, I mean, there's that whole meme of, like, fighting a jiu-jitsu guy, and he fucking sits his ass on the floor, and it's like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Like, get into my guard. You know what I mean? Like,
it's crazy.
Really good and effective, but you got to get there to be able to use it. And
I
just
feel like,
oh, you have a really good guard when you do jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I don't doubt it. But you're also getting elbowed in the forehead right now, and you're bleeding. And you're currently, like, just throwing out shit, and it's not working. What are we doing?
I feel like the two main times you should even use jiu-jitsu is like a club and sub on someone that's hard to finish ground and pound. You get them rocked, you just get them on the ground and go for the sub. Or like when you get dropped and you are in bottom, then you throw some shit up. But to just like force it there, I don't know. I don't believe that. And like a lot of people be like, back in the day, they were definitely like disciplined based going into MMA, but I feel like a lot of people now go in as an MMA person. They want to learn it all a little bit, and so like everyone knows a little bit of everything. They're not gonna be the best, but everyone knows how to somewhat stop submissions in the UFC. So like, just use your hands, work it when you need it.
Yeah, like going back to like who Islam should fight. Like, I don't think Charles is gonna be the guy to beat him. Like, I know it'll sell pay-per-views and everything, but I feel like you could find somebody with like a similar skill set in this division that's fresh that'll actually be like, well, we haven't really seen this guy fight Islam, so it's a coin toss. Whereas if you give Islam Charles, it's just like, well, we saw how that went last time. We saw how Islam handled Dustin striking, so more than likely, freaking Charles isn't gonna outstrike um, Islam. You know what I mean? It's just, I think it would be old at that point, and I feel like if you give a guy like Charles, who he really relies on how confident he is going into a fight to be able to like pull off a victory. If you gave him Islam again and he lost, I feel like you're just never gonna get the same Charles back.
Yeah, I mean he's on
Tough one.
a bad look on his career right now. It's like it's a tough thing. He's coming off losses. He's coming off losses. He's lost his belt. All that. He's got a road ahead of him, but you don't want to throw him into the fire, have him lose again, and then it's like, well, now you're gonna have to fight the entire division to even be looked at again when you were such a dominant champion.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to be in that position. I would rather him go fight a couple more guys in the top like 5 before attempting to even try like Islam or any of that.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be looked at as like a bitch move, like, oh, you hung around until Islam left and now you want to fight for the belt, but it's like, I mean, eh. I mean, you're not meant to beat everybody, you know.
Fuck Islam. Hate that motherfucker.
I also feel like it's a similar situation to like Max and Wolf. Like sometimes people just got your number, like you're saying. Like it ain't even necessarily running, but like at the end of the day, he lost to Armand. He can't just jump back into a title. He do got to get it back. He do got to get some fights in. He might actually have to just take the game route fight. It's so bad stylistically, and he could easily lose a decision, and it could be ugly to watch. Charles losing the game right. It would hurt everyone, but he might need that first confidence.
Yeah, especially because Gamrot beat Armand. Like, he trains with Dustin Poirier. Like, Gamrot's legit. If you beat Gamrot, like, people are probably going to be like, ah, well, it was just Gamrot. But it's like, Gamrot could beat a lot of people in the top 3, top 5. He could beat Dustin. He could beat, I mean, they wouldn't fight, but he could beat him. He could beat.
He gets rocked every fight. I'm not gonna lie, he got rocked by RDA last fight.
He does. And
But,
I mean, he got
but he
knocked
almost
out
put him out.
by Benil, but I still feel like he's solid enough. Plus, he's like training with Dustin. Like, he's learning striking and everything. So he's not a scrub.
I think Islam. I think he's one of the ones, man. He's one of the greats. I think what's gonna get him is complacency. I think he's gonna get. There's just not gonna be too much for him to chase, and it's gonna take someone with real hunger and who's a dog to put him in a dog fight to take that shit from him.
Yeah.
Whether it's someone in this weight class or whether he moves up, whatever has to happen.
Yeah,
He's
like,
gonna have to get tired, and someone's gonna have to be hungry, man.
when you could hear like Habib, they were saying that Habib saying, like, what are you doing out there? I think it was like maybe after round 3 or something. It's like, I feel like you hear like a guy like Lucas Tracy. I don't know if you guys listen to him, but he was like, oh, I think Islam had staph infection. That's why he was performing that way. I think honestly, Islam, he was just bummed because he couldn't finish him after 3 minutes of having his back and having him in choke positions. He was just like, fuck, I couldn't even choke this guy out. I think he honestly, in my opinion, I think he might have got like a little bit of PTSD from fucking Volk, from the first Volk fight, and he was like, shit, this might be a long night. This might make me look bad. And I think
Yeah.
he was just like, fuck it. I guess I'll just stay on the feet instead of embarrassing myself every round, not being able to choke out this guy that fucking Habib was able to choke out. Charles was able to choke out. You know what I mean? But I can't do it in 2 rounds. So I think he was just feeling sorry for himself.
I mean, his fucking takedowns were getting stuffed left and right. Like when I see
Yeah, I bet.
the Instagram comments, and oh my god, bro, these Islam Blazers, bro, I can't fucking stand these fans, man. All over the comments, he won on feet, more significant strike. I'm like, bro, are you watching the same fight, bro? Like Poirier looked better on the feet. He did, but he got caught. He got finished. Islam did what he had to. If for a second there, it was really looking like, oh shit, like Poirier might beat this guy right now. And then Islam caught him. He was able to grab his leg, and spin him around. Here's the thing about that takedown too. When you
That
watch,
shit was beautiful. Can we talk about it? That was beautiful.
it was beautiful, but I think it was halfway unintentional. When you watch that in slow motion, it wasn't he was trying to ankle pick him, spin him, and like drop him. When you look at Islam's face, he's like, he doesn't realize that Dustin fell out of it. So Dustin went to pull away, and half of it was like Islam. I have no doubt Islam was setting up for a takedown, but then Dustin went to go pull away, and then Islam kind of like reacts to it. Was like, oh shit, he pulled away, and then jumped on his back. Islam had more energy and more fight in him at that point in the fight than Dustin did. Otherwise, Dustin could have quickly sprung the fuck back up. It could be age. It could be the fact that he was getting hit as well. He's gonna be tired. He was in a fucking body triangle for like 5 minutes of that fight. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna be tired. But all that to say, I hate the fucking Instagram comment fans, bro, because they're out here thinking, "Oh, Islam, greatest striker. He destroyed Dustin." I'm like, bro, were we watching the same fight, or am I just crazy? Which one is it? Because
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Islam was holding his own. He was doing good, and he made Dustin miss a lot. Like, Dustin had more than enough time to do what he had to do to get the belt, and Islam gave him the opportunity.
I don't think he gave it to him. He was
There was
forced.
enough time. There was enough, but that's my point. Is that there was enough time on the feet. Dustin gave himself enough time to win that fight, and he didn't. He
Yeah, but
wasn't
we're
going to
talking
win
about
it. He was never going to win a decision against Islam. He had enough time to knock him out, and he couldn't.
he was getting there.
He was par to par with Islam in striking, where he had the advantage.
I mean,
I don't know.
There was way more stand up time.
I don't know if it was part. I think Dustin was doing way better on the feet. Once again, I think significant strikes and all that bullshit aside, I think watching that fight, every time it was standing, people were reacting to what Dustin was doing more than Islam. Sure, Islam was hitting it too, but Dustin was piecing him the fuck up. Islam's forehead was cracked wide open. The dude was leaking.
But aside from the fourth round, I don't think he won a round. I mean, you can maybe argue for one more, but it was definitely 3-1. He definitely gave us a great fight. It looked good, and everyone, regardless what you say, everyone had bias in that fight. Islam did what he had to do, man. He looked good doing it too. The ground not being able to find a submission, that is concerning. The takedowns were not looking good. Gamrot, say thank you, Dustin. Gamrot prepared you so well for that. But every time in the open, he couldn't get Dustin. But when he got to the cage, that's usually where Dustin fucking falls apart. But
my thing is, like, you even saw this with Kamaru Usman. Like, he did not start as a striker. He started as a wrestler. But over time, you saw him, like, outstriking people. And even though he stopped wrestling as much, he always threatened the takedown. He always, like, feinted the takedown. And it's, like, little shit like that where I think saying that Islam is a better striker than Poirier is ridiculous because that was not a pure striking match between Islam and Poirier. Like
That's good.
Max,
I'd sack every fucking 30 seconds, and then it gets stopped, and then he'd have to stay.
yeah, like when you look at Volk versus Max, like Volk is, I guess you could say his background is wrestling, but those three fights were like mostly striking, where I don't think Max, generally speaking, was afraid of the takedown. So they could basically pure strike, and Volk consistently outstruck him for the most part in that trilogy. So you can say Volk is the better striker, but to sit here and say that Islam is a better striker than Poirier, that's not a pure striking match. And everybody's like, this isn't boxing, this is MMA. Yeah, but at the same time, stylistically speaking, there are times where people can basically, for the most part, just have a kickboxing match or a boxing match, depending on how the styles match up. This was not one of those. This was a well-rounded, primarily grappler against a somewhat well-rounded, primarily striker. And in these matchups, if the striker doesn't have good enough takedown defense where they can, like, not even just get back up, but just defend the takedown period, they have to sit there and be afraid of a takedown for most of the fight. So they can't even really get in their groove like they normally would. Like Dustin would do against Gaethje or he would do against Holloway. It's not even the
So
same.
are we gonna say this? So are we gonna say this about everyone against Islam? Because that's just who he is. It's always gonna be like that. He's always gonna be the better grappler with just as good striking. Maybe not better all the time, but
Yeah, but people are saying that he's
but who said that he's a better striker? I
You
don't
look
think
at
that. I think
Bro, everybody is saying, oh, more significant strike. He's
That's
great
what-
striker. He's great
that's literally
striker.
what they're saying on Instagram. They're saying that they're posting that. They're saying he's
All
a
I
better
would
striker.
say- all
I
I would
don't.
say-
Well, I mean, obviously some fucking dumbasses are gonna say that, but I mean, realistically, it was not like it was a mismatch on the feed.
all I would say is what's more impressive? The guy who's known as potentially the greatest wrestler in the sport right now getting shut down on his wrestling, or him somewhat being able to stand his own on the feet. What's more
Somewhat
impressive?
stand his own on the feet with who people think is potentially one of the best boxers of all time. And I do, and I'm not taking anything away. I'm not taking anything away from Dustin. It was amazing watching his takedown defense. I just told him to thank Gamrot. That shit was beautiful. But let's not act like people aren't saying that Dustin isn't a top 3 boxer in UFC. Like,
No, but people are
it's
saying they're trying to take the crown away from Dustin by saying that Islam just showed that he's a better striker, a better boxer than Poirier.
that's not true, but people are always going to say that troll shit. I mean, it was even. It was close. Dustin obviously looked better on the feet. He cut him up, but he could have finished him and he didn't. He had enough time.
I think
This
potentially.
isn't like, it's not like a Hamza Kevin Holland where the motherfuckers ragdolled the whole fight. He had enough time. He damaged him on the feet. He cut him up. He just couldn't get it done. It wasn't his night. He got slept in the dark in 4 seconds.
I think that came down to just him being exhausted. Like, legitimately watching it in slow-mo, like, that was not... He was setting up for a takedown, but Dustin went to pull out, tripped, and Islam capitalized and jumped on.
That's always going to be a fight, though. Like, nothing's always going to go as planned. You got to adapt in the moment, and that's what the greats do. And Islam made the move. He spun that motherfucker around and got his position.
I just think, I don't know, bias plays a part somewhat, but I definitely think Dustin looked better in that fight overall. I think Dustin looked better in that fight, and then he lost the fight.
I think, in my
Islam
opinion,
looked better,
I think Islam, he looked great. I think Dustin exceeded expectations. We all thought it was going to be a wash. We all thought he was just giving the shit and it was going to be a runaway, but he made it interesting. He made it a fun, good fight, but he came up short like usual.
Yeah, I think this was like a case of like Dustin overperformed and Islam underperformed, but Islam still showed that even on an off night, like most of these guys can not compete with him in an MMA match.
He's trash. Islam dumpster. That's my thoughts. Booty cheeks. Can't wait for that motherfucker to either get beaten up or retire. Get him out.
That's our number one pound for pound. You know, sorry, John.
Yeah, fuck what Dana
But-
White's saying.
I'm working outside.
Penny X.